Hello everybody and welcome to this video about my recent comic book haul. I got pretty much all of these comics in the last couple of weeks. Some are trade paperbacks, got a few hardcovers, and I just recently started buying single issues. I want to get into that more, get into that side of collecting. So I've been mostly buying Marvel because the DC Rebirth is coming up, so I'm just going to wait for that before I start collecting single issues of DC Comics. So it's a lot of Marvel. This will be a very Marvel heavy episode. But anyway, so first I have Civil War. Obviously, as evidenced by the bookmark, I am reading it at the moment. Yeah, I'm basically reading it in preparation for the Civil War film. I don't think that the movie will be that similar to the book, but the book is really fun. It's got a cool story. It kind of reminds me of Watchmen a little bit, you know, the sort of war against superheroes and the sort of regulation of them. And so you've got Iron Man, who is in favor of registering superheroes, and then you've got Captain America on the opposite side, who is very much against it and sort of creates his own army to go rogue basically and do illegal things. It's really good so far. I'm about halfway through it. The art is great. Mark Millar is a great writer. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Next is The Walking Dead, Book 1. I figured that I should start reading The Walking Dead. I've not really watched the show much. I know it's super popular, so I figured that that it would be good to read the books. So I read this book maybe about a week ago, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very fun and scary and just really fascinating. I liked it a lot. So I probably will watch the show again after this. I'll try again. I have the first season on Blu-ray, so I should probably give it a watch. I'll see how it compares to the book, if it's similar in quality, if it's better. A lot of people love it, so I assume it's, you know, it's pretty solid. But yeah, the book is great, and I love the black and white art. Usually, you know, I like a lot of color in my comic books in general. I am not a huge fan of monochromatic color schemes, but this is a big exception because it looks great, it suits the series, and even if they brought out color versions, I'm not sure I would buy them. I don't think that will happen because it's just it's been going on for so long. Like, this is book 1. I have also books, let's see. I just received these in the mail. Book 2 and book 3. I just realized this camera is quite low. I might use these as a stand. That might be a bit better. So yeah, the Walking Dead stand I'm now using. But it's a lot of fun. I can't wait to read the next couple of books. After Civil War, I might start reading those, though I have so many other things to read. It's hard to choose, really. Anyway, next I have The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1 by, oh gosh, how do you pronounce that name? Straczynski? Straczynski. It's Polish, I think. I don't know. um, this one, I think this is a run from the early 2000s, just based on the technology in them, and also there's a really great issue. See if I can find it here. A special issue about 9/11, about Spider-Man, and the other Avengers helping out at 9/11. Here it is. And so you've got, we interrupt our regularly scheduled program to bring you the following special bulletin. And it's quite an emotional issue. So it's just Spider-Man at Ground Zero, and it's quite inspiring, talking about how they'll sort of stay strong, and despite the adversity they'll come back from it and things like that, and just it's a really excellent issue. So, but yeah, I'm guessing then that this came out around 2001. I imagine this came out around the time that 9/11 happened. But besides that, it's a fun story. So it basically starts off with Peter Parker and Mary Jane are separated. They're married, but they're separated. And so this follows the arc of, firstly, of Aunt May finding out about Peter Parker's identity. And then you've got a few fun villains along the way. It's quite good. It took me a little bit to get into it because it's a very light-hearted kind of thing. At first I was a bit iffy on the tone of everything, but I've really gotten into it, and by the time I finished it, I was ready to read the next volume, so I'll have to pick that up at some point. It's the first Spider-Man adaptation that I've read, actually. I've seen all the films. But it's about time I started reading the books. Anyway, next up is Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Life. So the first volume of the Scott Pilgrim series. These series I have read before, but I read them in black and white, and they have since been re-released in color. Now, unlike The Walking Dead, this is a series I much prefer to have in color, because I mean, the film Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is one of my all-time favorites at this point, and having the book in color really ties it in more with the film. They already resembled each other a lot. Edgar Wright did an incredible job on the film, making it feel like the comic in terms of tone, in terms of pace, in terms of the casting. The casting was perfect. I love Scott Pilgrim. I love these books. I've read all of them. I think they're excellent. They're funny and strange and just really, really great. I can't wait to read this again. I haven't read it again yet, but I'm really excited to, and I'll definitely be collecting the rest of the volumes periodically, as you know, money and that kind of thing. But Scott Pilgrim, can't beat it. All right, so now I'll move into the single issues that I have. Some of these I will have read, some I will have not. So I'll talk about more in depth the ones I have read, but the ones I haven't, I'll mention, but not really go too deep into them. Such as the first one, Poe Dameron Volume 1. Loved The Force Awakens. And it's really cool that Marvel is bringing out all these Star Wars stories in comic book form. So this is issue 1, so I figure, why not check this one out? Haven't read it yet, but I think it'll be really good. I am really looking forward to reading this. Dameron was a fun character in the film. Interested to learning more about him. Next is The Simpsons comics, issue number 221. I've been a big fan of The Simpsons since I was a kid. Since I was, well, pretty much as long as I can remember. But I never really got into the comics all that much until I started reading them. I thought, why not get the Simpsons comics? So yeah, I picked up this one. This is actually a back issue. I have the latest one. I think is number 228, which I have ordered. But I found this one at the comic book store and I picked it up. This story's okay. It's not the best. It's about Marge. She goes to prison because she tore off the tag of a mattress. It's pretty stupid. I must admit, it's pretty stupid and not all that funny. But I love The Simpsons, so I'll deal with it. You know, I still watch the show, so my tolerance is quite high. But anyway, I've got more Simpsons comics here, so I won't dwell too much on this one. But it's decent. Next is a new one, Gwenpool, issue number 1. Now, I believe Gwenpool was introduced in the Howard the Duck series, which I have not read. It's a funny idea. Like, so it's this girl who's plucked out of the real universe and becomes a Deadpool-esque character who's very meta, who comments on the fictional reality. Oh, that sounds like an oxymoron, but the fictionality of the Marvel universe, and makes like these references to the people reading, to the writers of the book, that kind of thing. It's a pretty fun first issue. It's yeah, as I said, very meta, comments a lot on the structure of the book, and stuff like that. It's quite entertaining. Interested to see, yeah, how it will go. I don't know. I can imagine it'll, like, this character might start to get tiring, but we'll see. But for now, I'm finding Gwenpool pretty fun, and I really like the art. This cover is really nice, actually. I really like this one. There's a few variants which are really nice too, but don't have the money for all that. Yeah, Gwenpool, she's cool. She's cool. Interested to see what happens next. Next is Black Panther, issue number 1. So as you can see, I'm just pretty much, for the most part, collecting comic books that are either on issue 1 or pretty early on in the series, because I don't want to go into anything too established just yet, anyway. But yeah, Black Panther is a character I'm not too familiar with, but I figured it would be good to become familiar due to, well, he's in Civil War, so in the film. So I figured it would be good to get more of an idea of who Black Panther is. See, this is a pretty interesting one. I guess it's certainly the first one I've read that's set in Africa. Whether it's the only one or not, I don't know. So that's really cool. That's a unique selling point on its own. And he's like, I think he's the king of I think Wakanda. Wakanda, is that what it's called? I think that's the name of the city. It's kind of a futuristic city. And yeah, I've only read this issue, so I'm not too caught up on all the characters yet, and all the everything involved, all the information involved. But it was an interesting first issue. I'm interested to read more. Yeah, so alright, next I'll show these two at the same time, so I'm not rambling on and on. Black Widow issue number 1 and Black Widow number 2. So yeah, this is a new Black Widow series written by Mark Waid, who I read the first volume of Archie recently, which is a lot of fun, which he wrote, and so I thought, okay, Black Widow, I know already that he's a good writer. I'll check this out. And I think the letters in the back mentioned his run on Daredevil. Apparently it's really good. So I might have to check that out at some point. Yeah, Black Widow is pretty interesting. The first issue is very action packed with, like, I finished issue 1 in about less than 5 minutes because it has hardly any dialogue. It's basically just Black Widow escaping from SHIELD headquarters after having, I believe she has taken something. Now she's on the run. And so the first issue just deals with that. And so it's very action packed. Yeah, barely any dialogue. So it's a very quick read. And then issue 2 is actually set before issue 1, and it's just sort of the backstory of why she was going into SHIELD to steal something. I won't, spoil too much, but only on issue 2, so there's not much to spoil. But yeah, it seems like a fun series again. Black Widow is cool. I like Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow in the Avengers films and in the MCU. So yeah, I will definitely continue on with this series and see where it goes. Next is another Simpsons comic, Simpsons number 227. So yeah, this was the one that came out last month, and so it was the first new one that I read. Yeah, this one I liked more than the other one because this one is a collection of stories. So I think this one had three stories in it, and they were all, pretty decent. They didn't overstay their welcome. They were mildly amusing, and I really like the letters section in the back too, because I feel like Bongo Comics, they really appreciate their readers, and they post, like, fan art and all that kind of stuff, and they just seem like really cool dudes. So I pretty much want to support them regardless of even the quality of the books. But I mean, this one was good, and yeah, issue 228 is just coming out, so I'll be picking that up pretty shortly. And then there's a couple more Simpsons comics here that are more back issues: 219, 223, and 224. But I've not read those yet, so I can't go too much into that. But they seem hopefully good. The covers are pretty cool, so the art is great. It obviously, being based on a TV show, you'd want it to feature pretty much the same art style as the show, and it does. It looks just like the show, and that's great. Alright. Only a couple left. Next is The Astonishing Ant-Man issue 1. I picked this up for $4 at my comic book store. They had it at a special price, so I thought, why not? Because I love the Ant-Man film, thought I'd check it out. So yeah, it's about Scott Lang, much as the film was. So it's been about a week since I read this, so I can't quite tell you the specifics of the story, but it seemed pretty funny. It seemed pretty good, so not much I can say about that. But next is Daredevil. This is issue number 5. So yeah, this is the first Daredevil issue that I've read. It was alright. I still need to sort of get into the character more. Haven't really watched the show all that much. I've watched a couple of episodes, and I have seen the Ben Affleck film, but that was a long time ago. But I like the art style of this a lot. It's got a very dark color palette, which makes sense given that Matt Murdock, Daredevil, is blind, so yeah, so that looks pretty interesting. I like that a lot. So yeah, I'm interested to read more of this. And lastly, but not leastly, that's a thing, is X-Men 92 number 1. I really want to pick up number 2, but the comic book store is all sold out, which is kind of a bummer. I really want to read that one. Yeah, I really enjoyed the first issue of this. So it's just set in the X-Men Academy, really, and it's just the new generation of mutants And there's a lot of fun ones there. There's so many. I couldn't even name all of them. It's cluttered with mutants, but that's a good thing. That's not a negative. Yeah, so I'm guessing with the name X-Men 92, I'm assuming, because I have not read any X-Men before, and maybe someone can correct me on this, but I'm imagining that it's kind of a throwback to maybe X-Men circa the early 90s. That's just a guess. Because it does kind of have a little bit of an old school vibe if you consider the 90s to be old school. Just in terms of the art and whatnot, it reminds me of the 90s really. So whether that's intentional or that's just my misreading of the whole thing, that's left to be said. But and yeah, hopefully I can pick up issue 2 somewhere. I don't know if my comic book store will get them back in stock, but I really want to continue it because I liked the first issue a lot. Anyway, so that will do it for this episode. So yeah, I have a lot of stuff there. Some I haven't read, so I should really get onto that. And there's more stuff I have bought that I haven't shown, just due to the fact that I haven't read them, and I have almost nothing to say about them. But I know I picked up Paper Girls, and Saga volumes. I already had volume 1, and I picked up volumes 2 and 3. But I need to read volume 1 again. It's been a long time since I've read that. And there's a bunch of other stuff that I have to read. Anyway, that will do it for today. Thank you everybody for watching, and talk to you guys later. Bye.